Hello, hello, hello. Okay, so we're talking about the emotional cost of people pleasing. It is Transformational Tuesday, you guys. And this whole series is why do I keep holding back? Why do I keep holding back? It's all about releasing and rising, letting go of our fears, letting go of the people pleasing, letting go of the guilt and the perfectionism. Okay. So, this lesson really is here to unpack the hidden cost of people pleasing, right? We'll explore how guilt based decisions keep you stuck in cycles and how much energy, how much clarity, and how much joy you're trading for this temporary peace. All right. Every time you say yes to avoid guilt, guess what? You're saying no to your growth. So, in today's lesson, it's all about the quiet burnout behind people pleasing. Okay, we're going to name it. We're going to name how guilt has been scripting your yes and how much energy, how much clarity, how much joy, again, that you've been trading for this piece. All right. The emotional cost of people pleasing. So let's be real. All right. You've been saying yes, not because you're aligned, but because you feel guilty for saying no. All right. And you're tired, right? Not physically, but spiritually, emotionally, energetically, right? Because guess what? Seeking someone else's approval, it is expensive, right? It's an expensive cost that at some point in our life we all had to pay, but we want to cap it today, right? We want to stop it today. All right. So in today's life lesson, we're going to break down what people pleasing is actually costing you, right? Why guilt has been running your yes, and how to stop buying peace with self-abandonment. All right. This is what you're trading off, right? This self-abandonment. You can love people, all right? You can love people and still disappoint their expectations. You can love people and still let them down, all right? All right, you don't have to say yes when everything in you is saying no. So let's talk about it. What is one thing you say yes to or you say yes to recently, not because it was right, but because you felt guilty to say no? All right. And what did it cost you? Did it cost you your peace? Did it cost you your time? Did it cost you your energy? Did it cost you a level of self respect? Like, what was that cost? All right. Listen, guilt isn't guidance, you guys. You don't have to perform your way into your worth. You already have it. All right. You don't have to perform your way into your worth. You already have it. And you don't owe access, right? Just to feel like a good person. All right. You don't owe access just to feel like a good person. So, I want you to do this for me. I want you to drop a one in the chat if you're ready to have this conversation or if you're done paying the price of people pleasing. All right, listen, what if every yes that you've given out of guilt has quietly said no to your peace? All right, what if every yes that you've said out of guilt has quietly said no to your peace? And here's the thing, you're wondering why you don't have any peace, right? Because you're saying yes to things that you really, at this grown age, don't want to say yes to. Now, maybe 10 years ago, maybe a while ago, this was feasible. You could do it. But now it's like, I don't want to do that anymore, right? I've outgrown that space. That no longer serves me, right? And it no longer serves you for me to do that thing for you. I think that sometimes we also have to take in consideration um, a lot of times what the opportunity cost is, even of us, continuing to entertain codependent relationships, right? So because you keep saying yes, the person is really not doing what they need to do to get their life aligned. All right. Good morning. Good afternoon, cousin Terry. All right, listen, why am I having this session? Because I know what it's like, or how it is to spend years, right? Years proving your goodness through performance and emotional labor, right? I've worked with so many people on this and how to really stop it, right? Really stop this people pleasing. And here's why, because after you do it, you only feel resentful, burnt out, and unseen, right? This session is, or this lesson is not just about setting boundaries. It's really about recognizing the emotional cost of living on borrowed expectations, you guys. All right. So here's our disclaimer for this lunch and learn. This isn't about blaming you for saying yes. All right. So I want you to soften your ears, right? This is not about blaming you for saying yes. It's really about freeing you from the guilt that made that yes feel necessary. All right. We have to free free ourselves from the guilt. Now remember, why are you still carrying this guilt? Because it was something that you learned. Hey sister, hey, hey Jackie, how you doing? Because maybe something they learned like over time, carrying adult age. And it's just like, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. Listen, healing starts when you recognize that peace, right, doesn't have to come at your own personal expense. All right. Peace doesn't have to come at your expense. And I know for years you might have been taught that, but it's just not true. So, good afternoon. Welcome back to today's Lunch and Learn. It is Transformational Tuesday. On Tuesdays, we talk about the O in the Stop and Now framework. And O is for obstacles and opportunity costs, right? So, what is this guilt really costing you, right, in your life, in your peace, in your relationships? All right. So, let's take our time. This is no pressure, just your presence, right? Just to get present in the body. Remember, this project is all about bringing some compassion back into our bodies, bringing some love and some compassion and some forgiveness, right? So let's feel our feet on the floor, right? Coming up our legs. If you're standing up, right? If you're sitting down, feeling your butt in the seat. All right, up our spines, just getting present in the body, bringing some love into our body, just taking a deep cleansing breath. You've done what you should do this morning, right? You woke up, you went to work and all of that. And this is your lunchtime, just a break, just for you to just renew, reset, right? Rewire with some information that you can carry into the rest of your day or into the rest of your life. Okay. In the rest of your life. I want to welcome you back as we scan our face, right? Coming up our necks, right? We've given some attention to our organs, held a space in our hearts, right? Release that weight off our shoulders, down our hands, all right? Activating those and going up our necks, all right? Scanning our face, our lips, our nose, right? Our eyes, right? Asking God to really allow us to see the reasons that we should be grateful on today. All right. Softening our ears. So whatever we hear today, it's not as harsh and not as brass. Okay. All right. Bringing some attention to our brain, right? Just asking God for that neuroplasticity to rewire our brain to really, as it is the gear of our ship, right? To rewire it, to see the things that we need to see. And then the space around us, right? Just taking a little time to feel the space around us, a deep breath. Okay, this is our cleansing breath. All right, listen, I love you, right? This telling our body that we love her, or love him, right? Or love it, right? Right. And just pausing for a minute. All right. So drop a word in the chat. Let me know how you're feeling today. All right. I'm feeling really good. I mean, if you was a part of the first one, you saw the technical difficulties, but I do feel like that when you set an intention, a lot of times destruction will happen. And so I'm okay with that. All right. I'm okay with that. Drop a word in the chat. Let me know how you're feeling on this lunch and learn. All right. And if you want to challenge yourself, drop a word in the chat that describes what people pleasing has cost you emotionally, mentally, or physically, right? I know that a lot of people pleasing for me has cost me my worth, right? A lot of times, in my younger ages, just trying to please people and them not being pleased, right, just made me feel like I wasn't enough, that I had to do more, that I had to be more, right? And that cost then started to detect how I move, right? So I found myself working 16 hours, eventually till I really got those migraine headaches, right? Those daily chronic headaches, right? So what have people pleasing cost you? And remember, people pleasing is not about the person. It's a coping skill, right? It was some rejection that I didn't want to feel. It was some emotions that don't want to feel. So when I'm even working with clients and they're like, I'm a people pleaser, we want to unbraid that. Like, what is it that you don't want to experience that you're using people pleasing to really cope? All right. To really cope. All right. So who is this session for? It is for you. If you say yes to avoid guilt, not because you're aligned, all right? You're saying yes to avoid guilt, not because you're aligned, though, right? But because you just don't want to feel guilty, all right? If you're drained from always being the dependable one, right? Everybody know that they can call you, right, when things go wrong and you just tired. Listen, don't call me, right? right? And if you feel like you're constantly performing for approval, right? You just can't be in the state of who you are without having to perform or prove yourself, prove your love, prove your worth, prove your value, right? And some type of performance or some type of doing. Okay. All right. So if you feel like you're constantly performing for approval, then this lesson is for you. Listen, this is for you if you're ready to really stop buying temporary peace. All right. At a price of long-term disconnection from what? From yourself. All right. You're disconnecting from yourself because you're buying this temporary peace because you don't want to feel the guilt. Guess what? The guilt is coming. The guilt is coming, right? But it's not the guilt. It's how are you letting that guilt navigate your life, navigate your decisions and things like that. And guess what? I told you guys, an emotion only wants to last 90 seconds. 90 seconds, right? So just sit in it, right? Know that it is a consequence to you creating a standard. It is a consequence to you changing. It is a consequence to your growth because your nervous system wants to what? Do what it always done, right? That's the safe thing to do. Well, we can just say yes because we've said yes. And everything in your grown age of adult wants to say no, and that nervous system is going to keep whispering, and that guilt is going to be like, oh, you wrong. You know, you could have done that. Why did you say no? And it's okay to sit with that and allow it to be and do nothing with it. Right. And when you practice sitting with it in your head, right, and not entertaining it in your head, it will go away. It will go away. Hey, niece. Hey, T. Love you, boo. All right. So, our powerful quote for today, listen, every time you say yes to avoid guilt, guess what? You say no to your growth. All right. Listen, people pleasing, it looks harmless on the outside. All right. But it's an emotional currency, you guys. It in that cost, it adds up. So every time you people please, it's like a storehouse in the back where you've abandoned your desires, you've abandoned, what you wanted to do, right? It's a storehouse and it's costing you every day. And we're wondering why we're getting up tired, right? Why we have ailments and things like that. And it's because you're not living an aligned life. You're not letting your yes be yes and your no be no. And the Bible says that, right? Let your yes be yes and your no be no. And it also says that the truth will set you free. And a lot of us are not living in our truth because we're saying yes when we really mean no. And we already know my coin for no is KNOW. Listen, no, I want that for you, but just know I don't have the capacity to do it, right? Know that, hey, I want you to be happy. I want that dollar that you asking me for. I want you to have that $10. Like, I want all of that for you, but just know that I don't have to do that for you. All right. Not at this grown age of an adult. All right. So when we say yes, again, when we say yes because it feels easier, right? It often fuels an invisible guilt or an internalized expectation. All right. So yesterday we really exposed how guilt can disguise itself as guidance. All right. And today we're going to look at how that guilt really turns into emotional spending and what it's actually costing you. Listen, I had a client tell me one day, I said yes to so many things that I didn't want to do. And now I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm sorry. I've said yes to so many things that I wanted to do, and now I'm tired to do the things that really matter to me. All right, listen. She wasn't being generous. All right. She was self-abandoning in the name of being liked, you guys. All right. She wasn't being generous with her yes. And even the Bible says, don't take from a miser. Listen, don't take from a person that really don't want to give it to you, right? And on the backside of that, don't be a miser, right? Don't give something begrudgingly because God can't even work on that. And you could be affecting your prayer life, like the thing that you're praying for, this multiplication, right? This God blessing you. You actually could be stunning your growth because you're a miser, like you giving, but in your mind, you like, ugh. I don't really want to do this. Or you getting on the phone and you talking about the why you don't want to give. And guess what? Your nervous system, every part of you is unconscious. It don't know you talking about that other person. It don't know that this discusses towards this other person, right? It's just feeling it. And guess what? It's going to repeat it in your life over and over and over again. All right. Pep said overwhelmed. All right. Is that your word for the day, Pep? How you doing? All right. So again, I had to let her know that that wasn't love, that was depletion. All right. And sometimes we feel like it's love and we feel like guilt is this conviction, right? I said no, but God convicted me to say yes. No, God didn't convict you to say yes. You said yes because you didn't want to feel the guilt. All right. And we got to stop blaming some things on God and really just be honest. Like, I said yes, and I really didn't want to do that. And if you feeling convicted, then take that to God. Okay, God, soften my heart or do something because I really don't want to help this person no more, or pray about it, right? But a lot of times we're saying we're being convicted and we're not. We're just being guilted into doing and being a way that's not working for us anymore. All right. So here's your mirror moment and your heart check in. I want you to pause. All right. And I want you to ask yourself, what's one thing you said yes to recently, right? Not from truth, but from guilt, right? Right. Anything, right? Was it sharing your food, right? Was it that Cash App that you sent? Right. You sent it because you had the money in Cash App and like, I'm just going to send it. Right. Right. Was it sex, right? I really don't want to do this, but I'm going to do it because I feel bad not doing it. Like, what is that thing? Let's be honest about it because I think that again, awareness is the first step to really breaking through. We don't have to judge it though. And I think that's the other part. When we start to judge, we even feel more guilty, right? Because it's like, well, I should be doing this and I could be doing this. And remember, shoulds and coulds are in that duty paradigm, right? It's what I should be doing or what I could be doing for who? For whom? Right? Or what I should have did or what I could have did. Okay. Anything you should have could have did, let's do that in your future. But let's not wait in it now though. Let's not sit in it now and cause us more guilt, more shame, more of these lower emotions that's not moving us forward in our life. Okay. So here's 5 truths in this mirror moment that I want to explore with you. All right. Every guilt-based decision erodes your clarity. All right. Listen, it fogs your inner voice until you tell what's true for you. All right. Right. Every guilt-based yes, it erodes your clarity. It's as if every time you're saying yes to something, right, you're getting more and more confused about what your yes really is. Okay, what your yes really is. It's fogging your inner voice until you can't tell what's true for you anymore. All right. Listen, people pleasing is a short-term fix to a long-term emotional debt. All right. People pleasing is a short term fix to long term emotional debt. Listen, you buy comfort with the currency of your peace, right? You're buying comfort today to pay for an emotional debt that is long term. And I always say this, people can never pay you back that either. All right. All of the guilting, all of the stuff that you said yes to that, you wanted to say no to, right? And you're looking for that person to one day show up miraculously and give you that back. They can't, right? Because that exchange, that self abandonment that's happening in you, nobody can pay that cost, right? This is why we have what's called forgiveness, right? We just let it go, right? This is why we let things go because nobody can pay that debt. All right. Number 3, you're not selfish for choosing alignment. You're being wise. All right. A lot of us do carry a lot of guilt because we feel selfish, right? And why do we feel selfish? Because you've been trained, right? When you was a little girl, little boy, you had to share your stuff. You didn't really want to share your stuff, right? Your cousins come over, you got to share your cookies, you got to share your toys. You're like, I really don't want to share my good cookies. And so what that could have done was train a mind that you have to share, right? Even when you don't want to, right? Now, again, I talk about when your parents parenting you, it's just easy. The brain wants to conserve energy. So it's just easy to be fair and consistent, right? With your kids, especially old school, right? Because a lot of them just lived in survival. So the brain don't want to, have to adapt to each one of these kids. All right. So listen, all y'all need to be uniformed. All of y'all need to do the things the same. All right. Now you an adult. All right. And you realizing that, you're not like the bunch. All right. You do things differently. You speak differently. You want a different life. Okay. All of that is okay. all right? But you've been trained that it's selfish. And I just, even the word selfish is to me a little off because it's like you trying to be a little bit of yourself, right? Oh, I see you trying to be a little bit of you, right? Right? The little ish on the back of it, right? Be full of yourself, all right? Because God gave you one life, all right? Now, know that when you're full of yourself, then you can what? Be obedient to God's word because you have it to give. But a lot of us can't even be obedient to being servant leaders, to giving, right? Because we're not giving to ourselves first, right? We're not allowing ourselves to be free to be us, right? And really finding that space that's going to generate enough energy for me to serve me, for me to have the capacity to serve you, for me to be present. All right. Because we've been taught to put ourselves on the back end. All right. To put ourselves on the back end. And that's just not fair, right? It's not fair to you. And it's not fair to the people that you were called to be of service to. All right. That you were called to be of service to. Okay. So again, you're not selfish for choosing alignment. You're being wise. All right. Number 4, avoiding guilt now often creates resentment later. All right. So you're avoiding this guilt now by saying yes. And then when you lay down tonight, you're like, ugh, I hate that they keep calling me. Oh, they just get on my nerves when I say, right? It's building resentment, and resentment is a signal that something sacred has been silenced. All right. And a lot of us are resentful towards ourselves, towards people around us, right? Because we are guilt, allowing people, allowing things, allowing circumstances to guilt us into behaviors that we don't want to be in. And guess what? Like I said, at this grown age of an adult, either you caught it or you allowing it or you participating in it. So you can't even blame the people anymore, right? You can't blame the people who call it, ask for help when you saying yes, right? So you can't blame the people that you're training how to treat you. All right. And it's not going to disappear overnight. So I'm not even saying it to say that it's going to disappear overnight. But like I said yesterday, if you start telling people no, they're going to stop asking. All right. But you can't be mad at them for asking. When you create the standard and you create the boundary, it is your responsibility to hold that standard and boundary. I gave the example yesterday. If you call and if you say, don't call me after 6 o'clock, right? And then somebody call you at 7, and now you answer the phone, like, didn't I tell you don't call me after 6? Why you answer the phone? Your standard was after 6 o'clock. Send them the voicemail. Right. But no, you mad because they call you after 7 and now you want to argue with them like, that's what I'm saying. You don't respect my boundaries. You call on my phone. I told you, listen, you can't control other people, but you can control yourself. And you didn't even have to answer that phone. Matter of fact, you could have cut it off and didn't even know that 7 o'clock call was coming in. But a lot of us are even addicted to that toxic kind of back and forth argumentative type of way. And we have a relationship with guilt and resentment that we really need to stop. All right. Okay. Again, avoiding a guilt now creates resentment later. And then the last but not least in this section, you're allowed to disappoint others without dishonoring yourself. Listen, that is not being rebellious, you guys. It is about releasing, right? Releasing other people's expectations of you, right? Releasing whatever that is, right? So you're allowed to disappoint people. And I know there's this whole conversation about what you bring to the table, and people just want you to be brass perfect. All right. Listen, when you come to me, talk to me a certain way. When you come to me, act a certain way. When you come to me, be this way. And it's just like, okay, you expecting perfection from me, and I don't got perfection to give because I'm a human. And I know you ain't got perfection to give me. Even you asking me to be perfect is imperfect, right? So again, we're performing, we're acting a way that we don't do wrong, that everything is right. You know, we have to be emotionally prepared, mentally aware, so astute in who we are as these human beings, you know, or in somewhere we're toxic. And no, people just are imperfect. All right. All right. So you are allowed to disappoint others, especially as you're starting to transform your life. Okay. Especially as you're starting to learn who you are, you're going to disappoint people. All right. You're going to let some people down. The first let down is yo, yes. Now it's going to be no. They not going to like that because your yes set up a life for them. It set up an expectation for them. So when you take that out their equation, they're going to be mad. Right. And they're going to challenge you and probably call you everything in a book. But guess what? They ain't been called you nothing that you ain't been called yourself. So you okay. All right. You made it through your own inner critic. You can make it through their judgment. Okay. All right. If that makes sense, put a heart in the chat as we go to the next session. Listen, people pleasing feels like protection, but it's actually self erosion, you guys, because the more you sacrifice your voice, the harder it is to really access your identity. Okay. Listen, true peace doesn't come from avoiding conflict, it comes from honoring what's real. All right. What's real for you. And again, if you don't know what's real for you, go on a discovery, right? Right? Get a coach, get a therapist. What's real for you? Because some of us don't know what's real for us, and that's okay. All right. But let's go on a discovery so we can find out what's real, right? What we need to let go of, who do we need to become so that we can experience the thing that we want to experience in this life. Okay. All right. Once I stopped performing for approval, I realized I wasn't exhausted. I was just unaligned. And I want to say that a lot of you guys aren't exhausted. It's not the dis-ease. It's not even the illness. It's a misalignment. You in a space that wasn't created for you. You in a lane that ain't your lane. Okay. And you have to get in your own lane, because in your lane, that's where your power at. In your lane, that's where your energy at. That's where your love at, because that's what a source is. The source of you that's going to get you through everything and anything you want to do in this lifetime. But a lot of us can't tackle it because we're not in our lanes. We're in our mates' lanes, we're in our friends' lanes, we're in society's lane, right? We're still trying to figure out who we need to be to make other people happy. And we haven't said, you know what, who do I need to be to make myself happy? And if it's, being in this house and I don't know, painting on these canvases, if that's making me happy, and listen, it's disappointing everybody else, I have to learn to be okay with that. Okay. And that is what peace is, learning to be okay with the yeses, with the nos, and the discomfort. All right. All right. So again, your yes should never be a betrayal to you. All right. And then you learn that your yes should never be a betrayal to anyone. All right. All right. Because you create win-win situations. All right. That is what you want, isn't it? That is what you want, isn't it? So we know that the O and stop it now is truly for obstacles and opportunity costs. All right. So the emotional cost of people pleasing today is what we're exploring. And sometimes I'll throw in these old stories, right? For that old. All right. Listen, these truths actually reveal how guilt-based decisions just don't drain your energy. They disconnect you from your identity. So let's talk about this, right? Every guilt-based yes creates an inner debt. All right. So a lot of us are living in emotional debt, right? In spiritual debt, right? We just living in debt. And I used to say this a long time ago, you just need to go file for bankruptcy. Right? Just file for bankruptcy. Listen, I'm going bankrupt, right? I want to just clear this debt, right? I don't need to go back and figure it out. I don't need to unpack like when that happened. Just file for bankruptcy, because you have some emotional debt, you have some spiritual debt, you have some physical debt, you got some mental debt, right? That at this grown age, it's going to take a lot of energy to go try to fix that together. Right. This is kind of why I became a coach too, because I'm like, let's just go bankrupt and let's start over. Okay. What is it that you want? Okay. How did you get there? How did you get, what's the origin of God that got you here? All right. And then let's figure out who you need to become. And then the things that's blocking you, let's talk about those as we meet them. All right. But we don't got to go unpack all of that. All right. Right. It's going to come out as it needs to. Okay. So listen, again, every time you say yes to avoid guilt, guess what? You're borrowing from your peace, you're borrowing from your energy, and you're borrowing from your alignment. And even if it looks like generosity on the outside, internally, it feels like this emotional debt, right? So this debt builds up over time, and it starts to show up as, again, resentment, as burnout, and even as emotional numbness. All right. So a false yes will leave you feeling emotionally drained. Now let's talk about this emotional numbness, because this emotional numbness is that third level of the nervous system where the where your emotional system or your nervous system is just like emotionally shut down, and you just in survival mode. So you don't trust people, you kind of to yourself, right? You're not really stepping out on faith, right? all of this is happening to you because you're emotionally numb. And so many of us get to a point where we're feeling this emotional numbness, right? Like, I don't even care anymore. Do what you want to do. Right? Like, we're just walking around in apathy, and then apathy creates depression, right? And then we start to feel some anxiety, right? And this thing just builds, this dis-ease just build, or this gaping hole of dead, emotional, physical, and otherwise. It just starts to feel like a weight in our life. All right. So remember, every guilt-based yes actually creates an inner debt. All right. And that debt builds over time, and it starts to show up again as resentment, as burnout, and as emotional numbness. So a false yes will always leave you feeling emotionally drained. So we have to learn how to let our yes be yes and our no be no. All right. And that may take some time with you being with yourself and talking to a therapist and getting a coach and things like that. But it will happen. All right. Number two, temporary peace often costs you long term self trust. All right. So a lot of us don't trust ourselves, right? Because we betrayed ourselves so much by being guilted and doing something that we didn't really want to do, not realizing that we are witnessing our own behaviors. We are the first witness, right? So you see you doing the thing that you said you wasn't going to do. You see you, experiencing experience that you said you didn't want to experience. You see you acting in a way that you told people that you weren't going to act. This is why integrity is so important, because integrity is, I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do, even when nobody is looking, because I'm always the witness. All right. So you may avoid short-term discomfort by people pleasing, but in doing so, you're training yourself not to trust your own voice. All right. So when you abandon your inner truth just to keep calm, or just to keep the room calm, or just to keep the peace, guess what? You make this external peace more important than your internal trust. All right. So peace isn't peace if it comes at a cost of your integrity. All right. It's not peace, because now you got to go to sleep and battle with the voices in your head saying, now, why you do that? You shouldn't have did that. There you go again. Right. And now you in conflict on the outside because you allow something you're on the conflict on the inside. Excuse me. In conflict on the inside because you allow something on the outside to determine how you going to show up and move. Now, again, maturing to that point where your yes can be yes is the journey, but are you even on the road to start it? Right? Are you on the road to really maturing into a person of integrity? Okay. And to get on that road, sometimes you just got to be tired, right? Like, listen, I want peace, and peace is an integritous act. All right. All right. Number three, guilt makes you believe you're selfish. Guilt makes you believe you're selfish for having limits. All right. So guilt will make you believe that your boundaries, that your expectations, that your standards is in some way being selfish. So guilt will whisper, you're being mean, you letting them down, you should be doing more, right? And it equates to boundaries with betrayal. All right. So every time you protect your energy, it feels like you're being disloyal. But boundaries aren't selfish, you guys. They're sacred, right? So your boundaries is you, and you have expectations, right? And the best thing sometimes we can do is allow other people to have to go through some things so that they can learn their lesson. All right. So a lot of us are impeding on other people's growth because we don't want to see them suffer. And so it's like, so you would rather suffer than to see them suffering? That's a question to ask yourself. So I would rather see myself suffer or experience the suffer than let them suffer. Okay. Well, I always say this. There was somebody that already suffered and already gave their life. Listen, I don't got to be a second person to give my life for you. There's this Joshua the Messiah. I know he came, right? And he gave up his life for me. So now you want me to also give up my life, or give up my peace, or give up my, my joy, my happiness to keep you comfortable? I'm sorry. I just can't do that. Now call me selfish or call me whatever you want, but that's not my job, right? That's not my job. Okay. And that's not your job either. All right. That's not your job either. Okay. Listen, emotional labor is not a love language, you guys. It's often an expectation. So consistently managing everyone's emotion, softening your truth, anticipating people's need, that's not compassion. It's It's emotional over functioning. All right. And when it becomes expected, not acknowledged, it turns into a silent drain on your soul. So love doesn't require you to shrink. Expectations do. Expectations from other people. Right. And remember, we taught them this, and this is okay. Right. We taught people how to treat us. Right. A lot of times we've taught people how to treat us. All right. So this um managing other people's emotions, right, this softening your truth, this and anticipating other people's need, at one point it probably served a big part of your ego, a big part of who you thought you were, and things like that. But I just want you to know that's not compassion, that's not love, that's emotionally over functioning. And when it becomes an expectation now because you've done it so much and now people are expecting you to do it, right, and then they're not even acknowledging that you're doing it, right, it turns into a silent drain to your soul, right? Like you just feel tired. All right. Listen, love doesn't require you to shrink. Expectations does. And expectations from other people is what's requiring you to shrink because they expecting you to say yes. All right. They're expecting you to do something. And sometimes you're expecting yourself, right, to be there for everybody, even when you don't want to. And so love doesn't require you to shrink. Expectation does. All right. I'm needed becomes a performance trap. All right, this is number 5. Listen, when your identity is wrapped around being the one who fixes, being the one who supports, being the one who absorbs all the pain, right, all of the chaos, you start performing for validation. All right. So you say yes because being needed feels like you're being valued. All right. Even when it's costing you your peace. Raise your hand if anybody have experienced this, right? I'm needed. And it's at this point, it's a performance trap, right? But it's validating, right? I'm the person that, has helped the family. I'm the person that anybody can call, right? And people look at you like, oh, you such a good cousin, you such a good sibling, you're such a good dad, you're such a good mom, you're such a good child, right? Because you have the cape, the S on your chest, and you coming in as Superman or Superwoman, right? And at some point it validated you, right? But at this point, it's not validating anymore, right? Neediness disguised as love is still performance. And whenever you're performing, it's going to have a course. It's going to take its course. All right. It's going to take its course. All right. So you say yes because needing feels or helps you to feel valued. All right. So you have to learn how to find value in something different than being needed. All right. Than being needed. Okay. Right, number 6, avoiding guilt creates energetic imbalance. So saying yes to avoid guilt actually puts your nervous system in a chronic loop of overextension, anxiety, and self-silencing. All right. You begin to feel disoriented. You begin to feel drained and depleted, not because you're doing too much, but because you're doing it from a misaligned place. All right. Alignment is so important because it's giving you energy. All right. So as you're doing the thing, right, it's creating energy and momentum in you to continue to do the thing. When you're misaligned, that's not happening. That's why you're looking for somebody to acknowledge you. That's why you're looking for somebody to say, hey, good job. Hey, because you're looking for somebody else's energy to in some way move you, inspire you, and you mad because people are not giving you the accolades that you need, right, to continue to move, right, because you're feeling drained and now you're like, people just don't appreciate me, people are just takers, these leeches are around me, right? And it's really not them, it's that you are misaligned, right? Because when as you give, so shall be given to you. So if you're giving from a place of alignment, right, that thing that you're giving is giving you something back. It's giving you some energy, it's giving you some momentum, it's giving you something back that you don't need anybody else's approval, right? You don't need anybody else's anything because this space that's created for you is actually generating it. Or guess what? As you're giving, right? As you give, so shall be given to you, right? you're probably not even looking for the people that you're giving to give back to you, because you have an understanding that their capacity is not there to give. And in some way, God brings you a covering, right? So God brings you somebody that's whispering to you, good job, or that's providing that voice of reassurance for you. And you understand that that's a God sent conversation, right? Because you're giving. I always say, a lot of times you don't harvest from what you plant. And a lot of us, we have planted over here, and we're looking to get back from the people that we gave to, and they don't have it to give, right? And you got a whole warehouse full of things to harvest from other people that's giving you compliments, that's seeing what you're doing, that's seeing your work, that's saying good job, you're handsome, you're beautiful, you're wonderful, I love you. But you don't hear them. You don't hear this harvest that is there from your giving, right? And that's, again, is a misalignment. So it's not that the energy is not there for you to catch. It's not that your giving is in vain. It's just that when you give from guilt, you can't see this harvest, this storehouse of all of this energy and all this blessing that's for you, because you're in misalignment. So again, avoiding guilt creates an energy imbalance. All right. When guilt leads, your energy leaks. All right. So you begin to feel disoriented, you begin to feel drained and depleted, not because you're doing too much, but because you are misaligned. So it's important to get that alignment, because you can be doing the same thing, right? It just feels different when you're mentally in a different space, right? When you're mentally in a different space, right? If that makes sense, put a 6 in the chat for me. Number 7, pleasing everyone means betraying yourself. This is something that a lot of my clients struggle with. Listen, you can't stay in alignment and live to keep others happy. All right. So this belief that pleasing, um, it's this thing, like when you please others, guess what? It is a betrayal to you. So when everyone's needs come before yours, right, you eventually start abandoning your truth to maintain the illusion of harmony. Listen, harmony that excludes your voice is not real peace, you guys. It is performance. All right. Harmony that excludes your voice um is not real peace, it's performance. And a lot of us are not in harmony with our actions, with our beliefs right now, with a lot of things, right? Because we ain't in it. We doing it because mama told us to do it, society told us to do it, somebody told you to do this or show up this way, as a male, as a female, as a mother, as a father, this is what you should do, right? And it's just not true to you. So your voice ain't in it. All right. So when your voice is not in it, it is a performance. And again, like I said, performance is work. Right. And you feel that. Number 8, overfunctioning is a story written in fear of disconnection. All right. Overfunctioning is a story written in fear of disconnection. You keep doing more, you keep showing up, and you keep saying yes, and you keep carrying extra weight because somewhere deep inside you believe, if I stop, they'll leave me. Deep inside you believe, if I say no, they won't love me anymore. Deep inside you believe that this is who I am and this is who I need to be for them. All right, listen, this is emotional survival. This is not partnership. All right. And you not the savior. All right. I know you feel like you are. Right. And you feel like if you stop, their life is going to fall apart, and you feel like if you don't do it, that they not going to love you no more. I get it. All right. But sometimes we just got to let it fall apart. All right. Sometimes we just need to love ourselves at the expense of everybody else loving us. Right. Like, listen, I'm going to love me if nobody else does. All right. And something very sacred happens, right? Where the same people that judged you, the same people that scorned you, the same people that, you know, all of the stuff that didn't feel good, they come around, right? They come around. And we just got to let time do what time's going to do, right? So you can learn how to love you, all right? And really get out of emotional survival, all right? And emotional survival is just you living off of these crumbs of love that people got to offer you, or you living off of this semi-valid value system from how other people see you. And if you don't see you like that, guess what? It really don't matter, right? They can tell you the greatest person in the world. If you don't believe you the greatest person in the world, it don't matter anyway. They could tell you the best mom, you the best dad, you the best wife, you the best husband, you the best worker. But if you don't believe it, it don't really matter, right? What they say, okay? All right, that's why it's so important for you to work on you and change your belief system or update your belief system so that you love you even when nobody else does, that you believe in you even when nobody else does, and that your yes is yes and your no is no, and you okay with that. And that is peace. All right, and that is peace. Listen, over functioning is a trauma response dressed up in responsibility. And a lot of us have been responsible for so many other people's lives, so many other people's circumstances, so many other people conditioning, and it's over functioning and it is trauma response. And maybe you got put in that role as a teenager, as a kid, because your parents wasn't home, you was a latchkey kid, or maybe you came from a impoverished environment, right? And you was the first person to aspire to do more and have more. Maybe you were the person that had the money and the resources and things like that, and so you felt like you were called to do this thing to help your family. Now, in the beginning, that was a wound, right? You're doing it from a wounded place. Now, were you probably called to be the support for this family? Probably, right? But you want to do it from your wisdom, right? You want to do it from your wisdom. And your wisdom says that I'm giving, right? I'm giving one for my overflow. And then two, right? I'm giving and I'm not expecting you to say yes. I'm not expecting any cheers. I'm not expecting any accolades. I'm not even expecting you to, you know, hear me or, see it, right? Right. I have no expectations. I can do that thing and I can let it go. And a lot of us are doing it from our and this is how we know we're doing it from our womb, because we want it. We want to be seen, we want to be heard, and we want to be loved for the things that we do. All right. All right. And that is your responsibility to be seen, heard, and loved for the things you do. And once you learn how to do that, right, then you teach other people to do that as well. Last couple of ones. Listen, guilt will always cost more than truth. Listen, guilt-based decisions feel cheaper in the moment, but they always have a hidden fee. You guys, they always have a hidden fee. So truth may feel more, listen, disruptive, all right, upfront. It may feel like telling your truth up front is going to cost your whole life, this whole relationship. And I just ain't willing to, pay that price. And we do have this thing like the truth hurts, right? And so we have so many core beliefs around what the truth is that we will not live in it, right? Because we're trying to protect other people, we're trying to protect ourselves. So truth does feel more disruptive up front, right? But it sets you free and it clears the resentment and it builds real peace and it starts to really ignite a truth between you and you. Okay, right? So guilt is alone and truth is equity. Truth is your asset. Truth is the thing that you can invest in because it's going to give to you back. But guilt is alone. You got to keep paying on that debt over and over and over again, right? And it ain't just a loan, it's a loan that has an interest rate, a high interest rate, right? So you may have borrowed, in this case, $100, but you're paying back $10,000 for $100. That's how much interest is on guilt that you have to now pay back, right? Where the truth is equity, it's an investment. You bought it and it actually got some currency in it. All right. And I feel like that's why it's so hard to live in the truth, because the truth is the thing that sets you free, right? Right. So again, guilt-based decisions, they feel cheaper in the moment. It's just easier to say yes in the moment, but it catches up with you on the back end. So sometimes we got to do the heavy lifting up front, all right? And that heavy lifting is being honest, all right, up front. Letting people judge you and think what they want to think about your truth, right? Right. And that's okay, right? And that don't feel good. And I think that's the thing that we get into these guilt cycles. We get into this abandoning ourselves because of a feeling, right? Because of a feeling, right? That we feel that we don't want to feel, right? And we don't want to sit with ourselves. We don't want to be okay with letting other people down. But on the back end, are you okay with letting yourself down? Because that's what you're doing, all right? That makes sense. Put a 9 in the chat for me. Listen, alignment is always cheaper than approval. All right. Trying to win approval, especially from people who expected you to overextend, is exhausting. So living in alignment may disappoint others, but it allows you to move with clarity, with peace, and with purpose. So alignment doesn't drain you, it actually directs you. All right. So these truths expose the real cost of guilt guided decisions. So you don't have to keep paying for your time, your energy, and your voice just to feel worthy. You don't have to keep paying, with your time, your energy, and your voice just to feel worthy. You're allowed to choose alignment over approval and call it peace. All right. All right. Right. So let's move on to our biblical wisdom. All right. In this midday. All right. So Proverbs 29 and 25. The fear of men lies and snare, but whoever trusts in the Lord is safe. All right, listen. When your decisions are rooted in fear of disappointment, you're building from anxiety, all right, not from trust. Listen, God's voice doesn't lead with guilt, it leads with grounded truth. So again, the fear of man lays in snare. But whoever trusts in the Lord is saved. Listen, this verse is saying when you're more focused on avoiding someone else's disappointment than honoring your own truth, you become emotionally trapped. That snare is the loop of people pleasing, saying yes when you mean no, performing to be liked, and silencing yourself to avoid conflict. But trusting God, the God that lives within you, guess what? It means that you move from truth, not from fear. It means that your safety isn't found in people's approval, it's found in inner clarity. So I am safe when I am aligned. I don't need to buy love with my exhaustion. All right. All right. So, I've been introducing the neuroscience, the connection. So the fear of man lies and snare, and but whoever trusts the Lord is safe. The neuroscience connection in this is that fear of rejection actually activates the what? The amygdala, right? And triggers overfunctioning behavior patterns. We know what the amygdala is. That's the emotional part of our brain, right? So safety in truth regulates the nervous system and improves decision making capacity. So I always say we have a safety issue. We have a safety issue. Okay. And we need to learn how to get safe and social and really move up our nervous system to that safety and social and get out of fight or flight and get out of emotional disconnect, right? Listen, this scripture actually matches the brain science that tells us about approval, addiction, and social fear. All right, the amygdala, the brain's fear center, is activated by social rejection and potential disconnect. When you fear someone's disappointment, your body can react as if you're in danger. All right, even if you're physically safe. All right, this triggers people pleasing. This triggers overfunctioning. This triggers conflict avoidance as protective measure. But when you live from an internal truth, what is called trusting the Lord, right? Trusting in that God in you, you engage from the prefrontal cortex, right? The part of the brain that responds with rational thought, the part of the brain that responds with discernment, the part of the brain that responds from self control. So the safer you feel on the inside, guess what? The less approval you seek from the outside. All right. So again, the fear of man lies in snare, but whoever trusts the Lord is safe. Again, this when you live in fear or from fear, right? You're actually creating, you're actually activating the amygdala. All right. You're activating the amygdala. I see that my computer is about to act up again. So let me get through Galatians 1 and 10. All right. Galatians 1 and 10. Am I now trying to win the approval of human beings or of God? The interpretation of this, your alignment isn't up for debate. God did not wire you to live from applause. He equipped you to really live from truth. All right. Again, am I trying to win the approval of human beings or of God? If I am still trying to people please, I would not be a servant of God. That is Galatians 1 and 10, the spiritual interpretation. This is a clarifying verse with alignment. It asks, who are you really living for? Listen, you can't serve truth and people performance and people's preferences at the same time. God's presence is you calling. God's presence is calling you to peace, to clarity, and to boundaries, not for performance. So people pleasing or pleasing people may get you applause, but pleasing God and trust and this truth that lives within you really gives you peace. All right. So internal approval is greater than external approval. All right. Again, the neuroscience to this, am I trying to win approval of human beings or of God? If I am still trying to people please, I will not be a servant of God. Listen, this matches neuroscience. Principles of self authorship and intrinsic motivation. So, studies show that people who live from internal values with psychology with which is intrinsic motivation have higher levels of emotional resilience, focus, and overall happiness. Listen, when your self-worth is rooted in external validation like people pleasing, your nervous system stays in a hypervigilant state, consistently scanning for others' reactions. But when your decisions are based in internal clarity, like truth, calling, and values, your nervous system can relax, all right, reset, and lead from a place of emotional, um, truth. I don't know what just happened, but my whole computer just shut off. Okay. Well, that's going to be my life lesson. I'll post the steps afterwards. Till later. See you tomorrow for that life lesson if you could still hear me, because my whole computer is just dropped. Let me see if I pop back on.